This guy is a respectful Muslim. He's not one who attacks. But what do you want to talk about?
Okay, I wanted to talk about well, last time we were about to talk about Aisha radiallahu anha.
Again, you want to talk about why you always want to talk about her? But go ahead.
I already explained anyways. So I wanted to know, show me in the Bible where they draw the line for marriage
Very
with the
easy.
kid.
Ezekiel 16 verses 6 to 8 and 1 Corinthians 7:36. So you should never challenge me. I've already done the homework. Ezekiel 16 verses 6 to 8 and 1 Corinthians 7:36 says that a woman is only marriageable when she's post-pubescent, when she's gone beyond puberty. So you didn't want to ask me that because you see, embarrass yourself. See,
Okay,
this
but
what
what do you define as signs of puberty? Because some people could argue that at the age of 11 months, some babies we see them
really?
like signs of like it's a
See, here we
Christian who
go
said
again,
that. It's a
buddy.
Christian who said that. Yeah.
Buddy, here we go again. You just asked me, and I showed you that the Bible says that a woman has to be fully ripened,
Oh,
past
okay.
puberty, post-pubescence, mature physically, and aware. Ezekiel 16, 6 to 8, and 1 Corinthians 7:36. I even showed you that. I have the verses, I have articles. And not only that, we go to the early church, and they condemned having sexual intimacy with youth, with children, pederasty. So I showed you, but can you show me that in the Quran? But you can't.
You, I think you mixed it up
Score.
because you didn't show me anything.
You
But
want to bet? I just mentioned the verses. If I
no,
open up
no.
the verses,
But last time we didn't even talk about it last time.
yeah. But right now I did. I just
Yeah,
told
yeah,
you.
okay, yeah, sure.
So, but even let's say the Bible did not say it. Okay, but the Quran, let's just assume I didn't have any verses that point to the fact that a woman has to be post-pubescent, mature physiologically and emotionally. Let's say I didn't have that. Can we put it aside? But the Quran is supposed to be the perfect revelation and a message for all generations until the end. And you believe Allah is God and He cares for all His creatures and He's merciful to women and children. The very least, your Quran should protect young girls from having intercourse before the time because it does irreparable physiological and psychological damage. So even if the Bible didn't say it, forget about the Bible. You're telling me the Quran is a message for all mankind. The Bible is corrupt. It was only for the Jews, and Jesus only came from the Jews. Why doesn't your God have something superior?
Well, again, it's kind of a contradiction what you just said because you just told me I believe that the Bible was. I don't believe that this. I believe that it was corrupted. So I don't even think that this was God's words.
Yeah,
So you
even though the
can't.
Quran doesn't say it's corrupted, but I just granted that argument for you. Okay, the Bible's corrupt, put it aside. Why then the Quran doesn't come with something better? Why doesn't it protect children? Why does it legislate pedophilia?
Define pedophilia.
Pedophilia is when a grown man takes a pre-pubescent girl and then has sex with her, and then she can be divorced for other men to have sex with. And if you follow your Islamic rule, he can have up to 4 of them at one time and then divorce them. But then he can have as many of them if they are his right-hand possession.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, so your question was why didn't God reveal some?
Because He knows the body better than we do, right? He knows, because modern science saying that a woman should only be considered marriageable or considered healthy enough to have sex when she reaches the menarche stage, not even puberty, menarche, when her hips have fully formed and are calcified, because up until a certain age, her bones are still developing. If you have intercourse with her prior to that, you stunt her growth and you do damage to her physiologically. That's why they talk about the menarche stage. Now her bones fully developed, her hips are fully developed, and now she's able to handle it, let alone the psychological damage that it would do prior to that stage. But your God created the body and knows it better than modern science. And you keep telling me the Quran is scientifically
No,
miraculous.
I've never said.
Okay,
I actually think that it should be separated from science, but whatever. Yeah.
Okay, but that was in the 90s, the whole proof of the Quran. I come from the 90s. I used to hear Jamal Badawi, Shabri Ali, Ahmad Didat, right? These were the big names of debaters at that time, not this generation. Jamal Badawi, every debate, the miraculous scientific proofs of the Quran. Now, Muslims have gotten smart, they've abandoned it. But in the 90s, everyone and his mother was quoting Dr. Maurice Bouquet, Bible, Quran, and Science. So I'm glad you abandoned it. But my point is, God, you say he's the most merciful. He knows his creation better than we do. So if it is a legislation for all peoples to the end of the age, and he cares for children, then the first thing he should have done was legislate to protect children from bodily and psychological damage. But he didn't. He sanctioned pedophilia.
Well, you can't compare like at the time. You can't compare it to now.
Buddy, you didn't even hear what I just said. This way.
No, I heard. I heard.
Okay. It was the Quran only for that time, or is it for all generations?
No, right. It's for, well, this is where I have to do some explaining. So, a age is something that is static, but the development of a person regarding his age, it changes over time.
There is no scientific studies to show that people in the 7th century matured faster than girls today. In fact, it should be the opposite, because today, living in Western cultures, because of the advancement in medicine and food, it's the opposite, right? We would have girls maturing faster now than back then because of the vitamins and all the food and nutrients that children today have that they didn't have back then. It's actually the opposite. They would mature faster now than then. That's not going to work, buddy.
Well, mentally they didn't. Well, I know you were talking
Mentally,
about
they didn't back then.
No, mentally they were like more mature like back then.
Okay, so when your hadith say that Aisha was playing with dolls, how mature was she?
Yeah, but see, you're talking about dolls because of the American perspective of like little boys and
Islam forbids the images.
yeah, and there has been a
Do
dispute over whether her dolls have a face or not. Ibn Hajar, he had the opinion that the dolls had a face. Other
and
scholars,
Ibn Hajar, the same person you quoted, said Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani says the reason why Aisha was allowed to play with dolls because she hadn't reached puberty. But when
yeah.
she reached puberty, she stopped. And you know how old was she when she stopped playing with dolls? According to Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, I have it. She was 14. So he admits she hadn't reached puberty till 14.
I don't
You
know.
appealed to him. I didn't appeal to him.
Yeah, and no, I didn't appeal. I said that this was his opinion. I never said I support this.
His opinion was Aisha was only allowed to play with dolls because she hadn't reached puberty, whether there was a face or not. But put that aside. He's saying she was allowed to play with dolls because she hadn't reached puberty. When she reached puberty, she didn't play with dolls anymore. And then he assigns the time of her puberty where she stopped playing with dolls around the age of 14. So it backfired against you. He's admitting she wasn't pubescent from 9 to 14. But you see, you're actually trying to justify this when my point was, since this message is for all people to the end of the age, why does Allah then ignore the fact that, okay, maybe some people thought it was okay today, but it's still harmful and damaging. And I'm not just concerned for people today. I'm concerned for all people to the end of the age. So I want to protect girls from now till the Dajjal and Isa return. Because he knows everything, right?
Who?
So why didn't he protect them? Why did he allow it to happen until now? In modern times, Muslims are embarrassed, have to just say, well, now times are different, so we shouldn't marry prepubescent girls. Well, okay, that's an illegal opinion, but that's not Quran or Sunnah. So you have to set aside the Quran and Sunnah because of embarrassment and pressure from these Western societies that are actually all kuffar. So you're kowtowing to the kuffar. Why? If you really believe in Allah, who cares what the kuffar say? Yeah, no, child brides. We're going to sleep with them, have sex with them. Damn you, whether you like it or not.
Okay, so if we look at outside of America, because this argument, actually, if you look back at it, back at the time of the Prophet, no one brought this argument towards him. No one brought it.
No, they did. Abu Bakr complained, and then they complained when Omar Abu Bakr asked for Fatima's hand in marriage. You know what your Prophet told him? I have the hadith.
Yeah, she's too young.
Say it again.
She's too young.
Well, wait,
maybe he meant mentally. Yeah.
How old was
like 10 or something, I forgot.
Wow. I love you because you're honest. So Fatima, who's around 10, 11, Muhammad said she's too young for Abu Bakr and Umar, and they weren't even as old as Muhammad when he married Aisha. So what do you mean they didn't complain? Here your Prophet complained, no, she's too young for you. So why was Fatima too young for Abu Bakr and Fatima, but Aisha wasn't too young for Muhammad?
Well, maybe I don't know. This like I might say something stupid. Maybe because like mental intelligence, whose was
And
more mature.
Aisha was mentally mature, playing with dolls and on swings. What about
Okay, but I wanted to know of the enemies of Islam until the last.
what I need the enemies of Islam when I have Muhammad's companions and Muhammad himself? You don't have anyone better than him telling you 10, 11 is too young. He said it. What about Ali and Kulthum and Umar when he wanted to marry Kulthum? What did Ali say to Umar?
I don't know.
She's too young for you. And he says, no, she's not. So I just gave you two examples where they're recognizing, oh, these girls are too young. But then at the same time, by saying that, they're going against the Quran, because the Quran doesn't set an age limit. But beyond that, why did Abu Bakr say to Muhammad when he said, I want to marry Aisha, but we are brothers? What was his complaint? He said, but we are brothers. As in Bukhari, he said, wait, but we're brothers. He was shocked. Wait, but you're my brother. Yes, we are brothers, but she's lawful for me. Why would he even object? Why would he say, but we're brothers? Where did Islam say that if you're spiritual brothers, you can't marry one another's daughters? That means Abu Bakr was troubled by that.
Can you? I've never heard about this narration.
Oh, yeah. I'll show it to you. Let me get it to you from sunnah.com. He said it. He goes, Aisha, and he goes, but we're brothers. Okay, Abu Bakr, let me find the hadith. All right. Here you go. Right here, sunnah.com. Let me enlarge it. I'll put it on the screen. So, buddy, it's very heartbreaking to me, and it really disgusts me that a young man, and you honestly, I'm not saying this to lie to you, you sound intelligent, and you're trying to be honest. How you want to justify this, I don't know. Here, Sahih Bukhari, volume 7, book 62, hadith 18. And I'll give you the link. Wedlock marriage nikah. Narrated Urwa, the Prophet asked Abu Bakr for Aisha's hand in marriage. Abu Bakr said, but I'm your brother. The Prophet said, yes. Said, you are my brother-in-law's origin in his book, but she is lawful for me to marry. Why was he upset, and why did he react that way?
I don't know. It's my first time seeing that.
Yeah, they're not going to show you this. So that's not true that no one had a problem with it. Abu Bakr had a problem with it. And then Muhammad had a problem with Abu Bakr and Umar wanting to marry his daughter Fatima. And then Ali had a problem with Umar wanting to marry Kulthum. And yet Umar and Abu Bakr were younger than Muhammad when they wanted to marry Fatima, when Muhammad married Aisha. So it's okay for him to do it, but they couldn't do it for his daughter.
At the same time, well, I mean, you're not going to believe that, obviously, but the Prophet, he only married people because of he received revelations.
Come on, boy.
Okay, obviously, you're not
God
going to believe
is
that.
the all-merciful God. He's not going to give a man a dream of a child to marry, because I know it says he had a dream where Gabriel showed him Aisha. That to us is not from God. We would say that's demonic or someone mentally ill.
Well, actually, I might be saying something wrong, but in the Bible, like it seems like they don't care that much about disbeliever children's. Like in Matthew 18, he says,
Matthew 18, it's not done about Jewish children. It's not about children in general.
Yeah, but he says,
belongs to children.
Whoever offends one of the little ones, which believe in me.
Buddy.
Yeah.
He says the kingdom belongs to such as these, and you must enter it as a child. Can you specify where it says that it's only Jewish children or Christian children?
Well, here it says, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones who believe in me, is he?
Exactly, yes. And because you're confused, now he's talking about spiritual babes. He's using physical children to show how you need to be a spiritual babe, that you have to come to Christ as a babe. That's why the Bible talks about when we're born of spirit, we start as spiritual babes. And the more we drink the milk of the word, then we mature into spiritual adults. So you just took that verse out of context, but you didn't read Matthew 18, where he begins with, when they say, who will be the greatest? He brought a child. He goes, you see this child? You must convert and be like this child. So he's talking about spiritual babes. Those little ones, meaning those who have come to faith, who are babes in the faith, trusting in me. If you cause them to stumble, then this is what's going to happen to you. But why don't you read the verses before it? Because he just singled out a child, He's saying, see, you have to be like the child. Well, how am I going to be a child? He's talking about spiritual babes. That's why we talk about being born again. When I'm born again, I start as a spiritual baby. The more I drink the milk of the word, the more I mature until I become fully mature in Christ.
Okay,
But
so
you don't know this because you
if
don't
I
know my
become
blood.
Christian, like if I get baptized tomorrow, so I'm
You become a
considered a
spiritual
baby?
baby. Yeah. Yeah. That's the teaching of the Bible. Here, let me show you. So you got to learn what we believe before assuming. But what in the world does that got to do with? You see how you went to Jesus saying only Christian children. What has that got to do with the Quran legislating marriage with minors? Did Jesus say, hey, only little children believe in me, don't have sex with them. The rest of the children, go have sex with them. What are you talking about, man?
No,
Where's the
because
relevance? Here, 1 Peter 2, verses 1 and 2. Therefore, laying aside all malice and all deceit and hypocrisy and everything else under, like newborn babies, long for the pure milk of the word, so that by it you may grow in respect to salvation. So what do we become? Newborn babies. So you're trying hard to make my Bible sound like the Quran. But even if it says what it says, it's still corrupt, right? So how are you appealing to a corrupt book to justify the Quran? A corrupt book can never justify the Quran, right?
I'm not trying to justify. I'm just saying that coming from you, it's. But I didn't mean it in a. I someone sent me this, so I was just curious. I
Yeah,
also was
because
curious
they're
about
trying
another.
hard. They're trying hard to help you defend Islam and refute Christianity. It's not going to work, brother. I've been hearing these arguments since 1999. 1999, I went into full-time ministry. I've heard it all, brother. I've heard it all. My brother in humanity. That's why I call you brother. You're son of Adam. And you're created in the image of God, though tainted. May God restore you. I've heard it all, man. That's why I know your arguments. I've heard it all. I've heard the best that Muslims have to say. And that's why I'm telling you, the more attacks, the more I study, the more I'm convinced Islam cannot be true and Jesus is alive and he's Lord. I'm not just saying it to say it. I dealt with the best Islam has to offer. Jamal Badawi, I'm talking about debates. Ahmadida, Shabir Ali, Zakir Naik, you name it. This is as good as you get. You can't do any better. So, but really, how can you, in your own mind, do you understand? This is not just theory. Right now, if you go to Muslim countries, right now, if you go to Afghanistan and places, there are people's daughters who are young who are being given away in marriage to grown men. In fact, there was one clip, I wish I can find it. It was on an Arabic television. It was, if you guys can find it, where a young girl who's around maybe 11, 12 was married to a man in his 20s. And you can see she's sad and depressed. She goes, my parents gave me to him, but if I was up to me, I want to stay with my parents and live with them. But
Yeah, well, yeah, that's wrong. It has to be her consent.
well, she wasn't consenting, man. She's like, I miss being home. And I was given to this man. And the man said, and the interviewer is telling the man, how could you do it? Well, she's young, so I will teach her and she'll grow in my hands.
Yeah, I mean,
She
if she
was
was forced,
heartbroken,
I'm
man.
against that. I'm against that.
But how can you be against it when it's the Quran and Sunnah, brother?
Yeah, well, yeah, in the Quran and Sunnah doesn't you can force your daughter. Forced
It's not
marriages.
force. It says her silence is her consent.
Yeah, well, why didn't she speak up?
She did. She was complaining, and
Yeah,
then
well, therefore it's unlawful. It's not. This marriage is not accepted.
really,
Yeah,
you positive?
yeah.
So if I show you some of the statements of Imam Nawawi or Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, where it says parents can give away their daughters who are very young, like even younger than 9, they can give them to someone in
Yeah,
marriage.
but after they pass a certain age, they
Yeah.
have to be consenting to
Did
stay
you
there.
catch it?
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
you see what you
yeah,
said?
but there's gonna be no sexual like things
No,
between
you
them.
know what
Yeah,
they said? See, I'm glad you're honest because it's. See, I want everyone here. You said, yeah, yeah, yeah. If they're too young, then yeah, the parents can decide for the child. But if they're old enough, they have to decide for themselves. So I'm glad you admit that. But no, do you know what those sources say? If I show you, you're going to be really disgusted. It says a parent can give away a child as young as 6 or 7 or 8 to a man, and the man can try to consummate. But if it's painful, then he has to not consummate, but he can do everything else. But when she's 9, he can then penetrate her. That's your Islam.
can you show me?
Oh yeah, I'm going to show it to you. Islam Q&A, brother. because you're Salafi, right? So, brother, do you understand? We who are not Muslims, we're hearing this and we're like, I can't believe this religion exists and that this man doesn't see how sick it is. Here you
Well,
go.
obviously, some things, I'm gonna be honest, some things they kind of shock me. For example, like,
Okay.
but I have to accept them. It's my religion, you know?
No, you don't. You can leave your religion. Why do you have to accept it? Put a gun to your head to stay Muslim.
Well, yeah, because I believe that it's the only monotheistic religion on the face of the earth.
No, that's not true, man. You guys got so many paganism in your religion, like kissing the black stone and all that. We can
That's
talk
not
about
paganism.
it. Okay, we'll see.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we'll see. All right. Here you go. Islam Q&A. I want to send you into private. Here you go. So you don't think I'm lying. Because, this is, by the way, even Sheikh Asim Al-Hakim, I just played the clips. He goes, the best website today on authentic Islam, islamqa.info. And he says, from, I don't know how many months. Hey, praise I am. I'm waiting for you to go on with you to talk about that Trinity, brother. If you want to do it tonight, let me know, praise I am. And tell JP to come join me on my live stream, bring his friend to try to refute me instead of talking about me. But let me know when you want to go live. Praise I am. Now, coming back to you. Okay. He said over 100 million views. And he goes, this is the one website that I trust. Sheikh Asim Al-Hakim.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have some problems with the person who's the supervisor of this website, but yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, that's, and I don't know. Then we got to tell Asim he's got to retire. All right. Here, so you see here, marrying a young girl before she reaches the age of adolescence. I gave you the link so you don't think I'm lying.
Mm-hmm.
It's permitted in Sharia. Marrying a young girl before she reaches the age of adolescence is permitted in.
Yeah, I know.
Indeed, it was narrated. There was scholarly consensus, ijma, on this
Yeah.
point. Now watch. What verse do they quote? Chapter 65, verse 4. So they're telling you this ayah of the Quran allows young girls who haven't reached puberty to be married, divorced, and married off again, but they have to wait 3 months. Now, in this verse, we see that Allah has made the iddah, in the case of divorce, of a girl who does not have periods because she's young and has not yet reached puberty. You guys hear that, right? The ayah says a girl who is too young and has not reached puberty, you can marry her and divorce her. But you know, and I know, because of chapter 33, verse 49, you know and I know, there is no idda, waiting period, if you haven't had sex with them, right? You know this, right?
Yeah.
So you admit here that if a young girl who hasn't had puberty has been divorced, that means the man had sex with her, right?
Oh, actually, for Idda, no, I didn't know. You had to have.
Do you want me to show it to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. There is no idda, waiting period, if you haven't had sex with the woman. Here it is, 33:49. O you who believe, 33:49, if ye wed believing woman and divorce them before you have touched them, then there is no period that you should reckon, but content them and release them handsomely. Now let's go to Lali Khan because that's Salafi. O you who believe, when you marry believing women and then divorce them before you have sexual intercourse with them, no idda, divorce prescribed period, and then mention 65 verse 4, have you to count in respect of them. So give them a present, sent them free, i.e. divorce in a handsome manner. So if you haven't had sex, there is no waiting period. But wait,
Okay.
65:4 talks about the young girl who's been divorced. Her idda, waiting period, is 3 months. That means she's had sex. So now do you see, according to your deen, you can take a young girl who hasn't had puberty, marry her and have sex with her and divorce her, and she waits 3 months for another guy to marry her?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you're not troubled by this, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, this clearly indicates that Allah has made this a valid marriage. Allah has made it a valid marriage. So you cannot undo what Allah has said. I don't care what modern scholars tell me who are ashamed of the Quran and they're liberal. It is narrated from Aisha. Now look at the example given. Who is the example of a young girl who hadn't reached puberty, who was married? Aisha. That's they're using it, not me. It was narrated from Aisha that the Prophet married her when she was 6 years old. He consummated the marriage with her when she was 9, and she stayed with him for 9 years. Narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. The Prophet married Aisha when she was 6 years old and consummated the marriage when she was 9.